Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another week in the Parsha. And we're holding already in PARSHAS TOLDOS. Horowitz is moving along swiftly, and there really is many fascinating things in this week's Parsha to say. But I want to focus in on from the beginning of the story to the middle. We know that Rivka and Yitzchak are married for 10 years already at the beginning of the Parsha, and they're without children. And so, Vayeter Yitzchak LaHashem L'Neichach Ishtai, davening, the tefillos were very, very strong, very powerful. Yeter, the Gemara said they're able to be ma'ata, they were able to turn over the decrees that there were. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings a Zerah Shel Kayama to his wife Yitzchak, to his wife, to Rivka. And she has problems. She's having a very uncomfortable pregnancy. Not because she has morning sickness, not because she has aches and she has pains, but she's uncomfortable because there's something very bizarre that's going on inside of her. And she has no idea what exactly is happening. She walks past the house of idol worship, and she feels that this child that's inside of her is trying to break free and go about down to idols. She walks past the Beis HaMidrash, to the yeshiva, to the Beis Midrash, to the Beis HaTfilah, and she feels that child, I think she has one child inside of her, is running to go and to daven and to learn and to be a part of the yeshiva system. And she doesn't understand what kind of a schizophrenic, religious, unreligious child I have inside of me. He's not this, he's not here, but he has some kind of interest in Avodah Zarah, and he has interest also in Torah. What is going on over here? And she has no idea, and it's distressing her. Because every mother wants for their child to be the best child in the world. Every mother, like the Gemara tells us the famous story of one of the women who, when she was pregnant, she used to go to the Beis HaMidrash, and she used to ask all the Tanoim Amoraim, give me a bracha, bless this child. He should go on to become a tzaddik, a righteous man. One of my Rabbi, Rabbi Eisenberg, when he was sitting shiva for his mother, I believe, so he told over the following story. His parents were simple Jews that lived in Connecticut, and in the 1930s, Rabbi Chanan Bassim and Zecher Tzaddik Libracha was coming to America on a fundraising campaign. And he came to Connecticut. When he came to Connecticut, his parents, Rabbi Chaim Eisenberg's parents, they were very simple Jews. They were not learned people. Their father was not a Rav, but they were an address where people would come and they would stay because they knew that the house was kosher. And when Rabbi Chanan Bassim was leaving their presence, she was pregnant already with her son, Rabbi Chaim Eisenberg. And she asked Rabbi Chanan as he was leaving, could he please give her a bracha that she should have a healthy pregnancy, she should have a good baby, could you please give her a bracha? So he gave her a bracha that you're going to have a son, and that the son's Torah is going to light up the world. This was a very, very far thing in Connecticut in the 1930s, very far from the minds of the parents back then. She answered, Amen. So Rabbi Eisenberg, who himself went on to become a tzaddik, who went on to become a person whose Torah lit up the world, especially there in Baltimore and Israel, who had thousands of students over the years, when he told over the story, in his self-effacing humility, he said, I don't know, I hope that I don't know if the blessing ever came true. But what do you see? The wish and the hope and the dream of every parent is that the child that they are carrying, the child that they will bring into the world, the child that they will raise, they want only the best and the brightest aspirations and hopes and the dreams for that child. So here you have a mother, she's the matriarch of Klal Yisrael, she knows that. She's coming in place of Sari Menu. She davened 10 years, and finally HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered their tefillah, and she feels that she has a child with 10 years of prayers inside of her. Not 10 years of little prayers, of Yitzchak and the Rivka together joining in tefillah. She only expects the best. and she only wants the best. And yet this child inside of her is causing her a lot of grief because there's something that is really wrong. You cannot dance at two chasanas, at two weddings. You cannot straddle the fence on both sides. You can't dabble in avodah zarah and idol worship. You can't dabble in heresy, and at the same time, you're the holy man who dabbles on Shabbos and Shul. It doesn't work like that. Either you are this or you are that. That's how it works in the world of ruchnius. You can't dabble around in places that you don't belong. So she's not sure what's going on. So she goes, as the Torah tells her, she has no idea. And she says, in Cain, if that's the case, that this kid is so mixed up, why am I like this? What was I davening for all these years? The Taylor Nidras is Hashem, and she goes to ask Hashem. And so she goes to Yeshiva, Shem, and Ava, and he explains to her, you think you have one child inside of you, you really have two. And as it says in the Torah, Shnei Goyim, you have two Goyim, two nations in your stomach. She's not being told that don't worry, it's twins. She's being told that they are twins, but they are both going to be great people in and of their own. They're going to be in two different states, from your womb. Yipardu, they are going to separate and they're going to go in their different ways. And the mightier one will be mightier than the other, and the mighty one will end up serving the smaller one, the younger one. That's the nevuah, that's the prophecy that she received from Shem, and she knows now that Baruch Hashem, it's not one crazy kid, it's two kids. One is going to go in the derech HaTorah, and the other one, Rahman al-Zan, whatever way he's going to end up going. It's been bothering me this, I don't know why, for the first time, as I look through this verse, but it says the words, in Cain, lo mezeh. If this is the case, that this kid is so mixed up on the inside of me, lo mezeh, then what's going to be? But this word anochi is a very unusual word to use when you want to say, what's going to be with me? Lo mezeh ani, you would say, lo mezeh, why is it going to happen to me? Anochi is a word that we do not find that often in the Chumash. The only place that word rings a bell is by the Yisera Sadivos, is by the Ten Commandments. The first of the Yisera Sadivos is Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Beis Avadim. Anochi, I am Hashem, you got to took you out of Mitzrayim from the house of bondage. So what does the Anochi of Rivka have to do with the Anochi of the Yisera Sadivos? So I found in the Noam Elimelech, the Rebbe of Melech says over the following idea. And he says like this. What is this verse telling us? And he goes through the whole story. She walked past this house. He was jumping this way, that house, and she found out, and she doesn't know she had two. She thinks she only has one at the time. And she says like this. In Cain, if so, im chalila ba'oit in the zed. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, so he says like this, and that is that Rivka Imenu knew that her children one day are going to stand on Har Sinai and they're going to receive the Torah. She knew that. This is already going back. Avraham Avinu Yitzchak, her husband, this is the legacy of the Jewish people. And Klal Yisrael is going to be the nation that one day, Be'ez Hashem, is going to stand on our Sinai, and Hashem is going to give them the Torah. And therefore she said like this, Lama Za'anoichi. Lama Anoichi is like it says by HaKadosh Baruch Hu on our Sinai. Lama li kibalta Torah shepesach ba'anoich Hashem. Why would I want such a child who's going to be the father of such a nation, whoever is inside of his stomach? Why would I want them to be the ones that are going to accept the Torah that starts with Anoich Hashem Elokecha? Ki ha-Torah kedoshah tzrich liyos hakol b'kedusha. Because the Torah has to be only received with kedusha, b'li ta'arubis chalila, without any mixture, without any mix-up, without any impurity that's in there. And she said to herself, I got a child inside of me. He's mixed up beyond belief. And this is going to be the one boy that's going to end up being Makabel the Torah in our Sinai. Why in the world would I want that this is going to be the one that's going to receive the Torah? So she goes to be Lidros as Hashem to find out what's going on. He says, don't worry, it's two. It's two. So one will be able to receive the Torah. The other one, you're telling me already, bitnich from the stomach, this child already is not going to go in the right path. So she knows what she's getting. She knows who's inside of her. She has the tzaddik in the Russia. That's what she's told in the prophecy over here. There are many questions on the story of Esav, because Esav now he is being relegated to a life of wickedness. He is being told from inception, before he even comes into this world, forget about what's going to be with you. You have a brother who's going to go in the right path. You're going to go in the wrong path. Your mother's relieved right now because at least she knows that one of her kids is going to turn out good. But whatever's going to be with you, Esav, is going to be, that's not our concern. And yet when we look through the Torah and we go through the story over here, it's not so simple that Esav was resigned to becoming Esav HaRasha, the wicked Esav. And Rav Hirsch writes things in this parsha that you have to be Rav Shamshin Raphael Hirsch to say these things. We would never, ever in a billion years even utter the words. I'm even afraid to say the words tonight, but I'll read them anyway because it's what Hirsch wrote. And he wrote it for all the posterity that we should understand what's going on over here. But he's bothered by the following question. And the question is like this. Rivka and Yitzchak were told ahead of time, in advance, the kind of children that they're going to have. They were told that one of the children is going to be a tzaddik, Yisrael Olam, who's going to love Torah and love mitzvahs, and he's going to go in that path. They were told they're going to have another son. He's going to be also a leader amongst men. He'll be the leader of a nation, but not going to be like the other one. He's going to go down a different path, treacherous, dark. He'll have used his might and his strength. It's not going to be pretty. Is a child that comes into this world, is it a gezerah? Is there a decree upon them that they must become that person that we think that they're going to become? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that while Esau was in the womb of his mother, that he's going to give him all of these tendencies that are going to bring him in the wrong direction, that are going to give him these powers, these animalistic powers, to make him go and be a hunter, to be in the field, to loot people, to rape women, to kill people, and so on and so forth. Is it a given destiny in the reality of the world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created that this young man is going to become for sure what it seems that he's going to become from his womb? Do we not believe in something called bechira, called free will? Do we not believe in the world of chinuch, of raising children, there's nature versus nurture? If you have a child that's born a kaisan, an angry child, does that mean that that kid is going to be angry for the rest of his life? There's a famous ma'aseh with the brisker Rav He had a daughter that he was able to see at a very young age that this daughter was a stingy little girl. Already from infancy, he was able to read faces, I guess. He was able to know the quality of the neshama. And he saw that this young girl is as stingy as can be. She'll never not give. She won't do chesed. She won't share. So the story goes that the Brisker Rav took his little daughter as an infant, got out a pushka for tzedakah. He sat her there next to the pushka, put the coin into her hand, and then made her put the coin into the pushka. Took out the penny, put it back in her hand, made her do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until he felt that he worked the stinginess out of her nature. And this young lady went on to become a Rebbetzin that was a Balas Chesed. She was known throughout the land for the amount of kindness, compassion, and mercy that she had on other people. So Rivka is told, one will be a tzaddik. The other one, we don't know what's going to be with him. It doesn't look very good. Is it a given that Esau's going to become a Pasha? Is it a given that he's going to go down a dark, dirty path? Is it a given that he's going to give into all of the negative parts of his nature and never perfect himself, never grow, never become a better person? Is it a given? If you hold that it's a given, then you don't believe in Bechira. And if you don't believe in Bechira, you don't really believe in creation. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a world, and the nature of the human being is that we have Bechira, we have free will. That is the way that we are likened to our Creator. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the master of free will, he does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. A human being who is Tselem Elokim in the image of God has the same innate ability to be a Baal Bechira, a master of free will. And as Rabbi Katz writes in his beautiful Sefer on Bechira, just as Hashem is a Yoitzer Olamais, he creates worlds. With your Bechira, you can be a Yoitzer Olamai, you can create your world as well. Yitzchak and Rivka believed in that. Yitzchak had a father whose name was Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was born into a generation, 99.9% of the world was serving idols and worshiping idols. Nobody believed in Hashem. Nobody believed in one God. And his father, his Bechira, his free will, peered into the universe, spent many, many years seeking and searching, and he ended up discovering and revealing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he went on, and Abraham believed in the power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu so much that a person could change. He went around the world. He was makar tens of thousands of people, from believing in the sun and believing in the moon and believing in the stars and believing in idols. He was makar thousands of people to believe in Hashem. Avraham believed in the power of change. Avraham believed that you could use your Bechira and make serious decisions. Yitzchak knew that. When his father marched him up the mountain, Yitzchak was not a young man, he was 37 years old. And when Yitzchak Avinu realized what was happening, he snapped in to the world of Avodas Hashem, and he began to do everything with meaning and with purpose and with focus and with dedication. Rabbi Shalom, if this is what you want, here I am, take my life. He used his Bechira. He used his free will. He knew that a person can change. Rivka Imenu, the Torah tells the beginning of this week's parsha. Rivka bas Besuel ha'chizlova mipadan aram. And Rashi asked at the very beginning, we don't know where she's from. We know where she's from. We know who her father was. We know who her brother was. The Torah already told us at the end of Parshat Vayera, her lineage. Why are you telling me again? Says Rashi to teach you that Rivka was the daughter of a Rasha. And she was the sister of a Rasha. And she lived in the place of Anshe Resha, a place of wicked people. And yet she did not learn from the ways, and she went on to become Rivka Tzadekis, the righteous Rivka. How does a young girl of 3 years old do that? Because Rivka understood his Bechira. I could choose to learn from my father and my mother. I could choose to learn from my brother. I could choose to learn from the people of the town. I'll become wicked just like them, or I'll raise myself up and I'll become greater than them. So Yitzchak and Rivka both know that you have free will. They both know that you can make decisions and choices in your life. They both know that if you want to change, you can change. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, was a man that nobody ever saw him get angry. Nobody saw him ever raise his voice. Nobody ever saw him squinch his eyebrows when somebody upset him. Nobody ever saw Rav Moshe lose his cool. He was calm and relaxed and patient all of the time. There are many stories of people that should have gotten on his nerves, people that he should have gotten angry with and upset with. And yet Rav Moshe, anger was not in his vocabulary. It was not in his personality trait. Somebody asked him once, was the Rebbe born like the not angry man? You know, certain people, they're just peaceful, they're calm, they're relaxed, they have patience. No matter what you do to them, you'll never see them react in a negative way. There's other people that you don't have to press too hard, and whoo, you'll get the anger right away. So they asked him, you're born like this? Is this who you were from birth? Like, you never got angry? So Moshe Feinstein said, you should know that when I was younger, I had a very strong need of kas, anger. But I realized it at a young age, and I worked to eradicate this trait of anger out of my system altogether. You have something that's lacking inside of you. You have innate, inherent challenges that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed inside of your character, inside of your spiritual makeup, inside of your personality. We don't believe that you can change. Of course we believe that you can change. So why then did Esau not change? He has the two greatest parents in the entire world, Yitzchak and Rivka. These are the people that believe that anyone, anywhere in the world can make changes of such colossal proportions. You could go from a believer in idols to believe in Hashem. You could go from a 37-year-old timid little boy who's going up the mountain with his father thinking you're going to go see what the view. And then you are putting yourself on the altar and you're telling your father, tie me down, please. I'm so excited to do the will of Hashem. I don't want to mess up over here. You have a Rivka who grew up amongst the Shoy, wicked people. And she chose not to be like them. She chose to be better than them. So you know, you were already prophesied. You have a son inside of you. And his future doesn't look too good. He's already, before he even comes into this world, jumping out at the house of idol worship. You've already been prophesied he's going to be a nation, not like Yaakov. He's going to be mighty and strong. He's going to be a man of the field. He's going to do violent acts. If you're Yitzchak and you're Rivka. So, and again, I'm not saying these words because I can't say these words. So, sharing with you what the first writes. Shouldn't they have prepared for a son like an Esau and given him the opportunity to make the changes in his life that he needed to? Shouldn't they have designed?
And just make the point that it's strange that Isaac knew all that, but he still favored Esau.
Yes, maybe we're going to speak about that also by the end. Trying to. So Rav Hirsch, in his very scathing commentary of Yitzchak and the Rivka at this point, he goes on the pasuk, "Vayigdalu hana'orim," And the Na'arim, the young boys, grew up. Esav ish yodei etzayin, and Esav was the man who knew how to hunt. Ish Sada, he was a man of the field. Yaakov ish Tom Yoshev Oyalim, and Yaakov was the man, the pure man who sat in the tents of study. Rashi points out over here that until this point, apparently it was not so clear the differences in them. As long as they were children, you couldn't really tell which was which. What were they doing? And nobody was medactic, nobody looked carefully. What was the nature of this child? But once they became 13 years old, Yaakov went to this yeshiva, and this one Esav, he went to go and worship idols and do all the things that he did. Which, by the way, parenthetically, is brought down in Chazal. That's the reason why a father, on the day of the bar mitzvah of his son, when he turns 13, we make the bracha, Baruch shepatrani. Blessed are you, Hashem, that you exempted me, you absolved me from the punishments of this child over here. Because once they turn 13, whoa, watch out. Says the Torah, you never know which way they're going to go, God forbid. So thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Up until this point, I was responsible. 13 and on, it's all theirs. We'll leave it up to them. Says of Hirsch, you didn't recognize what the differences were. You didn't know that one was a tzaddik when he came into this world, and the other one was a Rasha when he came into this world. You were already told in the prophecy, one is this way and one is that way. So he says over the following idea. And he says, the truth of the matter is, and this is a very beautiful just point in and of itself, the Torah does not try to hide the mistakes that our fathers, our forefathers, and our matriarchs and the people in the Chumash made. We're not trying to conceal things. We find Avraham Avinu is chastised a bit because he asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how am I going to know that what you're saying is true? We know that Sarah laughed when she was told she's going to have a child. We see Yitzchak and Rivka, whatever mistakes they will make. Yaakov Avinu has his hardships in life. The brothers of Yosef throw their brother to the pit. It goes down in history like that. Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock in anger. For all of eternity, everybody knows the mistakes that our forefathers and our matriarchs made. So he starts off by explaining the Torah is not coming to conceal anything. It's coming to share the lessons and the mistakes that were made so that in future generations, we will improve and we will do better. And he says over the following idea. He says, the pasuk in Mishlei tells us that Chanoich Lenar al pi darkei, a person must raise their child al pi darkei, according to the nature and the way of that particular child. Every child is different. Every child has their own derech, has their own path. Everybody has their own oil, their own world with the Rabbi Shalom. Every single child is a different compilation of midos, of character, a different compilation of desires, of passions, of drives, of genius or not genius, of abilities and not abilities, of talents or not talents. Every single child is different. And sometimes the differences are blaring right in your face. And when you see a child, that one is different from the other, so that as a parent, you have an obligation to make sure that the chinuch that you do for this one is not the same chinuch that you do for that one. The way in which you influence the tzaddik Yaakov Avinu to go and sit in yeshiva day and night and learn Torah is not the way that you raise a man of the field whose name is Esau, who was born hairy and red, whose name Esau means also that he was made already semi-complete. He's not the Ishtan, he's not the man of purity. He's a different breed altogether. And therefore, says Rav Hirsch, if that's the case, then it was incumbent, and again, we'll never say these words, but he says these words, it was incumbent upon Yitzchak and Rivka to make sure that they dealt with their son Esav in the way that was best for Esav. And if in fact Esav would have got the education and the upbringing and the prodding and the love and the encouragement in the way in which Esav himself needed to have it, then says Rav Hirsch, you should know that Esav would have risen to the challenge, and in his language, instead of being a gibor tzayid, instead of being a strong man of the field, of trickery, of the sword, he would have been a gibor livnei Hashem. He would have become a mighty warrior in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the army of Hashem. And Rav Hirsch writes that he believes that Esav and Yaakov would have worked together, each one with their strengths, each one with their minds, each one with their abilities that they're going to bring to the table. And the passion of Torah of Yaakov and the strength and the passion and the drive of a Esav would have merged and forged together, and we would have been a superpower nation. Nobody would have been able to stop us in the history of the world. But because they went to the same yeshiva, and they had the same Rabbi, and they learned the same things, and they told over the same stories, and the same Divrei Torah at the Shabbos table, and it was the same. Yaakov, who responded well because that was his nature, continued to become the Yaakov Avinu. Esav, unfortunately, turned farther and farther away from where he could have actually been. Says Rav Hirsch, this is the devastating reality in the life of Esav. He could have been Esav HaTzadik. He could have been a righteous man. He could have been on par, perhaps if not greater than Yaakov. As the Gemara tells us, whoever is greater than their friend, Yetzirah, Gadol Mimenu, the Yetzirah, that one is greater than the other person as well. And the greater the Yetzirah, the more that a person will have to work to be able to override the drives and the confusion and the chaos and the lies of the Yetzirah, to be able to follow the voice of the Neshama and the Yetzirah, which wants him to do the right thing. Yaakov was born a tzaddik. Esav was born a tzaddik in training. And Rav Hirsch writes, he could have gotten there had his upbringing been in a way that addressed Esav as Esav. He was born with very challenging behavior. But in order for him to be able to have a chance of using his bechira in the right way, the environment had to be set up so that he would be able to see what he was capable of accomplishing and choosing in his life. And that's why he says, everyone was shocked. Suddenly they're 13 years old. Now we see who Esav was. Now we see who Yaakov was. You knew already from the beginning who they were. But when you try to fit them into the mold, when you try to take the square peg and stick it into the circle, it just doesn't work. And that's commentary that he has. I don't have time to go into everything that he says over here, but he writes in very strong language. That's what the Torah is coming to teach us. The Torah is coming to teach us, parents of all generations, you better know your children very well. Because if you don't understand your child, and you don't understand what the strengths and the weaknesses are, and you don't understand the differences that reside between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you don't understand what's different between them and their friends and the like, so then you'll never be able to raise them al pi darko. And if you don't raise them al pi darko according to the path that they are supposed to be on, Rahman al-Islam, nobody knows what will end up happening to those children. Now that's all good in the world of chinuch. Parents and children have to be careful how they raise them. Child has to go on to be raised in the right way. But there's somebody else in all of our lives that also needs chinuch, that also needs to be educated in the right way, according to their path, according to the way in which they're supposed to go. And that, of course, is us. We're all at this point, we're out of our parents' care. They're no longer watching over us. They're no longer guiding us. They're no longer giving us their advice on how to be a better Jew, how to be a better person. See, your mother will always be your mother till the day the day that one dies. She will always tell you the things that she needs to tell you as your mother. Did you brush your teeth today? Oh, it looks like you put a little weight over there. Yeah. How are you feeling? You look very tired today. Everything is okay? Yeah, ma, everything is fine. Your voice, everything is good, ma. Everything is fine. Your mother will always be your mother. Your father will always be your father. Yet, when you get to a certain point in your life, the only one that is going to be machanech you, that is going to educate you and raise you and push you along the derech, the pathway that you're going on, the only one who can do that is you yourself. So we take the lesson of the parsha this week. The lesson is very clear. You're in the shul, you're in the community, you're amongst chaver, amongst friends, you have other siblings, brothers and sisters. If you try to be the person that you are not, then you will never be the person that you can be and are supposed to be. If you try to daven like the guy that stands over there, but that's not what your davening is all about, then you'll never be able to utter the tefillos, the prayers that you are supposed to utter. If the way I remember when I was in yeshiva, many years ago, I was a young man learning in yeshiva, and second seder in the yeshiva, it's called Bekiyas, you go quicker in the Gemara. And my chavrus and I sat in one place, and right over here, in front of us, were the two smartest guys in the entire yeshiva. Their heads were like, you just saw the veins going through their foreheads, watching them think about the Gemaras that they were learning. And they used to sit and learn quietly, the two of them together. What do you think? Then one guy would think, then he would say over what's the Gemara saying. The other guy would think, then he would offer his thing. They would argue quietly amongst each other. Then they would sit and they would think for a little while, and then they would start writing on the side of the Gemaras. They would start writing what the explanation of the Gemara was. I was very impressed by this. I myself was only learning in yeshiva for a couple of years at the time. I was now in the big leagues of Ner Yisrael, and I was sitting by the two biggest brains in the whole yeshiva. So I thought to myself, I guess that's how you have to learn. So you just have to think, and you just have to write what it says in the side of the Gemara. My brain didn't work like their brain. My understanding of the Gemara was not like their understanding. Unless I would scream at my chavrusa and work it out to try to understand, I didn't understand what was going on in the Gemara. But yet I found myself on, if I'll go back to those Gemaras that I had, I just find a lot of chicken scratch ideas in the Gemaras. And instead of learning the way that I should have learned, instead of delving into the Gemara, maybe with simple explanation that I should have been delving into, I was running myself in my mind wild because I was trying to emulate two people that were light years ahead of me in the learning. If you try to do anything in your life like somebody else who you are not, then you'll never do what you're supposed to do. A person must educate themselves according to their own personal way. Because if you don't, then you're going to be on somebody else's derech, somebody else's pathway, and you'll end up being on the wrong road. It's like, it's like those horror stories of the person who was late at night getting onto the freeway, and he went the wrong way. And he's driving down the 101 north, except he's supposed to be going south now. And he's heading in the wrong direction, and the cars are honking, and the lights are coming. The guy's like, what's wrong with everybody? Why are they driving the wrong way? And the reason is because you're going the wrong way. You're on the wrong side of the road. The person tries to be somebody else and do what they're not supposed to do. And serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not the way they're supposed to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So then you're going on the wrong side of the road. And you're not in your derech, you're not in your path. Rabbi Horowitz was the great mashgiach of the Mir Yeshiva in Europe. He was a very charismatic person, extremely charismatic. He spoke very gently in all of his drushes. He spoke because he wanted to make sure people were paying attention. They would have to sit on the edge of their seat to hear every single word that he had to say. And his classes were mind-boggling. They were life-changing. As a matter of fact, there's a beautiful story with Rabbi. Rabbi was one of his close students for the last year of his life. And when Rabbi got to the yeshiva, he was enamored by Rabbi Yerucham. He once met a fellow in the Beis Midrash in the yeshiva who was what's called an alter bacher. Alter bacher means that he's older. The guys were getting married normally, whatever, and in those days, 25 years old. This guy looked like he was 35, 40 years old. So Rabbi asked him once, he says, how long have you been in yeshiva? He said, 3 years. He said, oh, I'm sorry, he said, no, how old are you? So the boy said, 3 years old. You're not 3 years old. What do you mean you're 3 years old? So he told him, he said, until I met Rabbi Yerucham and started learning from him, he said, my life wasn't a life. From the moment that I started learning Torah from Rabbi Yerucham, I feel as if I was born, and that was only 3 years ago. I learned I'm only alive 3 years. And Rav Wolbe said about himself later on, it's taka true. I was zeichen to learn by Rabbi Yerucham for 1 year, and I feel that was the first year of my life. So Rabbi Yerucham was very powerful, very charismatic. His Rebbe was the altar of Kelm. And the altar of Kelm once came to visit Rabbi Yerucham in the yeshiva, and he said, we need to go speak. And they went into Rabbi Yerucham's office, and the Bachar was so curious. What is the altar of Kelm and Rabbi Yerucham going to speak about? The great Rebbe and their Rebbe sitting together talking. And suddenly he hears screaming coming out of the office. And the altar of Kelm is screaming at Rabbi Yerucham. You're not creating Talmidim, you're creating robots. And if no, I had robots back then. But he said, you're not creating students. You are creating imitators and imposters. You're so charismatic. You are so powerful. Everybody wants to be like you. So they're talking like you. They're walking like you. They're acting like you. They're thinking like you. Your job as a Rebbe is to allow the student to understand who they are so they can become the person they're supposed to be. We have to be mechanech. We have to educate and to raise ourselves. We have to prepare ourselves to be on the derech hayosha, on the path that we ourselves are supposed to be on. You want to look to others to get inspiration. You want to look to others to tell you, we have something called kina seifrim chagah chachma, which means even though that all jealousy is a terrible thing, nobody should have a trace of jealousy of anybody else. In one area, it's okay. And that is that when you see somebody else that's succeeding in their avodas Hashem, when you see somebody else who's serious about their learning, about their davening, about the way that they're growing, and you begin to look at yourself and say, hey, I could do that. I could daven better. I could learn better. I could find more time. Like all the people that are here, the myriads of people that are here tonight, I could do more. That kind of jealousy is permitted because it inspires you, but not to become a carbon copy of the other person. It inspires you to become the best you. Hina soifrim, the jealousy that you have for other great servants of Hashem is will increase the wisdom in you. Chachma comes from here, and from here, you have to do it yourself. So we'll take the lesson that Rav Hirsch is pointing out over here, just to answer Edwin's question of why it is that Yitzchak says he loved Esau. You love Esau? The guy's a Russia. The guy's a mischievous little kid. He's a trickster. He fools you, he tricks you, he does terrible things, he tells you about his exploits and all the different things that are going on. Why do you love this kid? So that's one of the reasons why he loved him. Because he knew that if my son Esau will just use his bechira, his free will, in a way that is beneficial and positive, he could change himself to such an extent he'll become even more of a treasure in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu than Yaakov will. He'll be a bigger tzaddik than the Yaakov will. And therefore Yitzchak, who was a man of avodah, that's his whole midah is avodah of working on oneself. He's the oiler to Mimi, he's the one that was brought on the altar. He became like a sacrifice. Sacrifice is always indicative of the avodah, the work that a person has to put in. So he saw in his son that if Esau would just work and work and work, so that he too will become a tzaddik in this world. If we will work, and we will work, and we will work on ourselves, and we will be honest with ourselves of who we are and what we are, and we will see where we have risen to the challenge and we have succeeded, but we will be honest with ourselves and see where we have fallen and we're not doing enough. Then we'll be chanoich lenar, we will educate ourselves al pidarkai according to our derech, the path that we are supposed to be on. And then we walk and we travel down that journey of life, which is in our own personal pathway, and we'll be able to accomplish and to achieve and become the great people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu invested with bechira, with free will, because he wants everybody to fulfill their mission here in this world. There's a very beautiful Maisa about a young man who grew up in Lakewood, New Jersey, who unfortunately had gone off the derech of Yiddishkeit. He went off of the pathways, and he was no longer a true person. And the parents, of course, were besides themselves, and they no longer knew what to do. And it just so happened that there was in the neighborhood that week, there was a Rav from New York whose name was Dovid ben Sassoon, an excellent, outstanding speaker, amazing teacher. And one of his specialties is working with kids in crisis, kids that are struggling in their Yiddishkeit. So the parents came to him and they said, you know, we have a son and he's struggling, he's in crisis. Would you be able to meet with him? Maybe you can say something. Nobody's been able to say anything. Maybe you could say something to him that will change his perspective. They said, look, I'm not a miracle worker, you know, please, we heard that you do one, please. It's okay, you want me to meet your son? I'll be happy to meet your son. I can't make any promises, and you know, Shabbos is coming soon. There's not so much time. It's okay, I'm going to send him right over. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, there's a knock on the room. Young kid, jeans, t-shirt, tennis shoes, I don't even know if it was one of the yarmulke, fluffy hair, comes to the door. And Rabbi Ben Sassoon sees it and he says, "Oh, Shalom Aleichem, what's your name? Oh, Mati is your name, come on in." And the boy comes in and he's like, "I don't know why I'm here. Parents told me I should come and see this Rabbi." So Rabbi Ben Sassoon is very laid back. And he says to the boy, exchanging pleasantries and everything. And he says to the boy, "Do you have anything that you like to do?" He goes, "Nah. Come on, you have hobbies, anything that you enjoy?" And the boy says, "One thing. One thing I like." "Really, what do you like to do?" He says, "I like to play the saxophone." "Really? I like to play the saxophone." "Shh. Could you play for me?" I said, "Well, I don't have my saxophone with me." So he says, "Look, could you get it? You don't live so far, do you? Can you go get it?" So the boy says, "Really?" He says, "Yes." So the boy runs to his car. He jumps, he runs to his house. He grabs his saxophone, and in record time, he comes back. And he pulls out his saxophone. "Wow," says Rabbi Benson. "Wow, that's beautiful. Wow, look how sparkly, how shiny. Wow, you know how to play that?" "Yes," the boy says. "Go ahead, play a song. Play whatever you like to play." So the boy says, "Well, you might not like it." "No, go ahead, play whatever you want." So the boy puts the saxophone to his lips, and he starts playing some whatever tune that there is, jazz tune, whatever. And Rabbi Ben Sassoon somehow knew the song. And so he's humming along with the song. And the boy is rocking out over there on the saxophone, and Rabbi Ben Sassoon is there, clapping his hands, and he's dancing, he's getting in, he says, "Yeah, you're doing great, wow." And the boy finishes playing, he says, "Another one, play another song." And the boy plays another one. And Rabbi Ben Sassoon is dancing around the room, and he's singing the song together with him. He's like, "Wow, you are incredible. You're incredible. What a saxophone player you are. That's just incredible. Wow, you're so talented. You're a professional." And the boy is smiling from ear to ear. And Rabbi Ben Sassoon says, "After Shabbos, I want to hear some more." And the boy says, "Thank you so much." And he runs out and he runs to his car and he drives away. About 25 minutes later, minutes before Shabbos comes in, the phone rings and it's the father of this boy. And he's crying. He says, "Rabbi, I don't know what you did. I don't know what you did." "What did I do? What did I do?" He says, "For the first time in 2 years, my son just walked into the door and he said, 'I'm coming home for Shabbos.'" "What did you do? What did you do?" He says, "What did I do? I did nothing, except I let your son know that I appreciate him for who he is." And that's what we have to do for ourselves. We have to appreciate ourselves for who we are. We have to see the strengths that we have inside of ourselves. We have to know the talents, the abilities, the potential that has yet been unearthed inside of us. And we have to follow the derech Hashem, the path of God, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has set in this world for ourselves. Ezras Hashem.